What's scarier than a little kid in a horror movie? Hereditary, The Omen, Children of the Corn. These films all instill terror because it's so troubling and upsetting to see small children acting in violent and disturbing manners. Now, make that kid a sentient robot doll that looks and moves in an eerily human way with just a tad bit of uncanny valley for good measure, and you've got a terrific premise for a horror flick. The first Megan movie leaned into this while also understanding that the only way this premise will truly work is to fill it with camp and gags. The second movie, Megan 2.0, abandons all of this in favor of a Terminator 2 ripoff that is painfully dull. Hi, I am Joe from Create Context, and today we're talking about Megan 2.0, directed by Gerard Johnstone. The first Megan film was one of those happy surprise movies. Seeing the trailer for that first film, it was pretty obvious what type of flick this would be, and that the resulting quality of the film could skew in one of two directions. This would never be an Oscar contender, but at its best, it could be a fun little campy horror movie that leans into the absurd premise. And that's exactly what it did. 2022's Megan was the best version of a killer doll movie we could get. There was some creepy doll moves, Megan herself was witty, and Ronny Chieng was around to absolutely chew the scenery every time he was on screen. It was a delightful little horror flick that would never make the canon of great films, but served as a fun time at the movies, exactly what it aimed to be. Megan 2.0 picks up a few years after the first film, with each character having grown a little wiser and a little more suspect of technology. Allison Williams' Gemma is still caring for her niece Caddy and working in tech, but now her parenting style is one that highly regulates screen time, and her business ventures are ones that aim to restrict technology rather than advance it. It's a fine setup that doesn't negate the character growth from the first movie, but it does make this film's second act twist harder to swallow. The main conflict of Megan 2.0 is a new, stronger, faster, better robot named Amelia. Amelia, played by Ivana Sagno, is this gorgeous AI robot model who has been commissioned by the US government to do all of their nefarious dealings. She takes on the missions that would be too dangerous for normal soldiers. The film opens with her identifying a super baddie in some undisclosed location while generals and other army brass look on in awe. The mission then goes quickly to hell when Amelia decides to assassinate the target and go completely rogue from her government overlords, a predictable twist that everyone in the Pentagon should have seen coming. Through a number of happenstances and convenient plot points, Gemma and her team of ragtag tech workers get pulled into this international world-threatening mission and decide to enlist the help of Megan to take her down. There is some hemming and hawing from Gemma and her team about recruiting one killer robot to take down another, but those are quickly squashed in favor of getting the band back together and starting the plot off in earnest. The only problem with this plot point is that it takes entirely too long for the original Megan to actually show up in her sequel. We are well into the second act before we even see the actual Megan doll, though her voice and presence is felt far earlier in the film. This is supposed to be a movie about two killer dolls fighting, but that happens so late in the film and is preceded by so many bland, boring plot points that it's entirely unsatisfying when the moment actually comes. Think about the movie this one is ripping off, Terminator 2. The first Terminator had Arnold acting as the big bad, and the second film flips the script. It turns him into the hero. This revealed is held for most of the first act and is only revealed in an epic shotgun battle / big rig race through the LA River that ends the movie's first act. It's thrilling and such a cool way to get Arnold's T-800 on our side. This film, by contrast, first has Megan showing up as only a voice, then placed in a kid's plastic toy without posable thumbs, then finally this creepy Frankenstein cyborg monster of her creation, before finally convincing the humans around her to give her a real body, a choice they lament and fight over for way too long. Look, I get it. There has to be some conflict around the decision to bring Megan back, but leaving this beat for well into the second act is a bad move. This movie has her name in the title. We've all seen the trailers. We know she's coming back, so don't waste precious screen time holding back this reveal. Just get to the plot quicker so we can end up seeing the film we all came to. The other downside of Megan's late reveal is that the other robot, Amelia, is far less compelling and interesting than Megan herself. She has none of the personality of her inferior counterpart and exists really just to be a sexy robot that looks more lifelike and has less qualms about violence. This world has robots that are compelling characters, but Amelia is not one of them. She's underwhelming on screen, and none of her actions are fun enough to sustain an audience's attention. It could be redeeming if the rest of the movie worked, but sadly, it doesn't. The true big bad of the movie, a reveal that's practically telegraphed from the beginning of the film, is utterly unremarkable. I hate to make digs at actors. I know they are just doing their craft, and this problem, the one we see in Megan 2.0, could have easily been a directing decision just as much as it was his acting choice. But this performance, and I'm not going to spoil like exactly who it is, but it's just the equivalent of a wet noodle. Every line is delivered with so little flair, and this character has no charisma at all that it becomes impossible to think anyone would follow him, let alone date him. Megan 2.0 tries to sprinkle in some self-referential jokes as well in an attempt to know what type of movie it is. Aside from one pretty fantastic song-related joke that got a genuine chuckle out of me, the rest of the humor lands hard and flat. All of the personality and fun of the original film just feels drained at every corner. The last thing I want to touch on is the overall theme that this movie is trying to portray, because it's a real doozy. The sort of lesson or moral the film wants to let us know is that AI is really only bad because we are bad. If we as a society and human race could just be better to one another, then the AI models that learn from us would all be better too, and we'd no longer have to worry about AI trying to take over the world. I'm already pretty worn out on the whole evil AI storyline, but this one and the positions it posits for a better world are just too corny and underdeveloped. All these AI and super intelligent robot movies stopped working for me a while ago, unless of course they use this plot device as a way to say something meaningful about our society as a whole. Take this year's Companion, for instance. But Megan 2.0 tries to ham-fist a central theme right in at the very end that doesn't recontextualize the movie. It just makes it feel pretentious, an unearned pretension. Like the movie is trying to say something meaningful and profound when none of these ideas were present at all earlier in the film. Megan 2.0 takes everything I loved about the first one and just throws it in the garbage. The first Megan wasn't a masterclass in cinema, but it was a movie that knew what it wanted to be. It was a fun PG-13 horror flick with some funny side characters and a witty, powerful villain. All the funny side characters are gone. The villains in this movie are painfully one note, and the star of the show, the titular Megan, is relegated to voices and robots that take away all of her appeal. This one was a bummer, and I wonder if in subsequent years it will gain a sort of cult following, but for now, it's just a bad sequel. Thank you guys so much for hanging out at the Weekly Movie Minute. Again, I'm Joe from Create Context. We do this every week if you want to come back. And this week, we're going to be talking about Jurassic World, whatever this new one is. I think it's probably going to be pretty bad, but we're in for the road. If you like this, please give us a subscribe. That'd be super cool, and I'll see you next time.